All right, good afternoon, everybody who's watching this. Yep, just give it a second for the Twitch feed to get updated and running, and then we will get started with our replay of a game that took place earlier today between Bastian Winkelhaus and Charlie Arlinson. This is their OCS quarterfinal matchup. I apologize for the quality of the video; it's a little fuzzy, just because of stretching it to full screen. But we'll make do. We can still see all the cards pretty clearly. Yep. Surprise, surprise. Rops again. Rops versus Diplo. I will go ahead and also warn you that it's Rops, it's Diplo. The game takes, both their timers are in the single digits by the time this game ends. I am going to skip ahead a little bit here and there through some of the longer thought processes or game sequences just to try and cut this down so it's not a full 2 hour video, and it'll be hopefully closer to maybe keep it under an hour. um, Otherwise, it's just going to, yeah. Tomas. Yes, this is it's a European player, so we had to obviously make the quality crappier in order to make it seem more appropriate, right? That's what we had to do. All right, so let's get this game rolling here uh, between these guys here. So I recorded it while I was at work, so I can't click on anything or whatnot to bring anything up. But Jem does a pretty good job of, and I was sort of watching it on my phone as I was, working today. But we'll see how it turns out. So Bastion's going to start Imperial Arrest Order. Do they have a code clearance and establish control? And Charlie's going to start squadron assignments, strike planning, and I must be allowed to speak for the farm puller. He's also got R2D2. It's not the R2 in 3PO combo, it's just R2D2, so he adds the light side icon there. Bastion just activates 5. Charlie used 1 strike planning pull on General Kraken, and they both pull grabber shields. We'll go to deploy phase. Also, in honor of this being a European game, I'm using my Euro Worlds 2019 glass as my drinking beverage today. I'll show that again a little later for those of you who may have missed it or may not have seen that yet. It's an awesome glass. I was glad I made it back on the trip. Kind of had to wrap it in all my clothes and stuff to try and give it some padding and protection, moving it around through the airport. All right, so Bastion gets the prefect's office with his objective. He gets Fondor with established control. He has the spaceport docking bay in hand, and he pulled the executor docking bay. And there is Imperial Domination number 1, which should already tell you that this game is probably going to go a little bit longer, because just getting one of them out very quickly certainly extends things a little bit. See how, there we go. Looks like my volume was a little low. And then Bastion just draws up a bunch of cards. Charlie's going to play Might. He's going to take a second to think about it, but he's going to ultimately take Leia. Whether he wanted Leia or Bail. You can make an argument for both in that case. Leia obviously gets you a use pile search and an ability character, a low ability character to trigger your objective. And Bail's want to get you your force drain bonuses for places where you have Leia and other Alderaanians. So Charlie started the squadron assignments. We'll do the General Calrissian Falcon situation. He's got the farm in hand, he's got Chandrilla in hand, and he got Mothma in hand. Uh, three cards you don't want to see in your opening hand. All three things that you can pull very easily. The quality is actually not too bad. So he's going to try and pull something with Diplo to look for Alderaan, and he's going to miss the Alderaan pull. It's one of those 9 cards in his force pile. Now he's taking his time, just sort of measuring out everything that's in his deck. He ends up getting Mos Eisley instead. Alright, that's not bad. But that's not the one you want. Obviously, you want to do General Calrissian, Falcon, Fly, do Alderaan, deliver the plans, upload any card out of the 30 or so that are still in your reserve deck. And then whether you move it back out, back to Tatooine, back to Chandrilla to pair up with the Tantive, go right to Raltier. You certainly have options, but yeah, you don't always, when you miss one of the parts of the pull, it kind of negates the whole point of doing this squadron assignment start. And sometimes that's why you see people not choose to do that. I know I played a squadron assignment start in my OCS matchup with Werfs, and I activated the Falcon. It was one of the cards in my force pile, and again, it kind of just throws you off, and it screws up the whole tempo of what you're trying to do. So, all right. So Charlie is going to match the Falcon since it's there. Get it while you can. He'll just see if he can spend that force, move Alderaan around. He'll just pull Alderaan next turn, and then get it going then. His other option here, if Bastion wasn't activating so much force, he could deploy Leia to like the Dune Sea or something, and then use a use pile search, get Alderaan, and then go to like deliver the plans. Um, he actually would have an extra 1 force left if he wanted to, that he could like deploy her and then shuttle her up. It's kind of a whole big waste of a turn, and of course, if it's like one of the bottom, if you spend this 3 to deploy her and it's the bottom card, then what do you do? So that's kind of the drawbacks of taking that approach. Plus, you don't like wasting use pile pulls on cards that you can get. So he'll dock R2. Actually, he wouldn't. Now that I think about it, because he's got to pay the 1 to dock. He would just have enough to. He wouldn't have enough to shuttle her back up. So that doesn't work either. Now that I think about it, I forgot he has to pay 1 to move the droids over. So never mind. Ignore that part. Said he'll just move everybody to Chandrilla, where he can draw a couple cards. Alright, Bastion's going to activate a bunch. He's got 15 active now. And he's going to go look for a docking bay and let Charlie verify his deck. I think he did it this way, so that way if he didn't have to pull the site or try to go pull the site and end up pulling a trooper, so he's okay giving a peek. It's a ROPS deck. Surprise, surprise. Not really sure what else he would expect to see in there. So now he'll use the objective and get one of the remaining sites out. And he gets the city. So he's got the city, the prefect's office, and the docking bay. No street. There's Imperial Decree Virtual. And the second domination. So of the 5 cards he drew last turn, he picked up his second copy of Domination. So now he can redraw twice, and he can retrieve 2 Imperials every time he wins a battle, as long as he occupies at least the same number of battlegrounds. Diplo is capable of spreading to more battlegrounds and turning that ability off, but It's a incredibly strong uh, game text that it does have. Being able to keep retrieving guys, especially in a deck like this where you can swap guys. So you keep throwing away your extra emperors and whatnot. We've covered that before. And then you just win the battle and retrieve your emperors and then draw them for destiny again the next turn. So he's got Blizzard 4 here, and he pulls Colonel David. And there goes the Emperor to the docking bay. And now he'll put somebody. Yep, he throws Ozzel down and flips, and then he gets to go get any card he wants. And he's going to go to battle, go to move phase. Colonel David's going to get out. Blizzard 4 is going to move over here in front of Ozzel, I believe. Certainly makes the most sense. Yep. Now he can draw, even though he has Decree out, he can still draw Battle Destiny at each location. Especially now that more people, especially in Diplo, are starting to switch back to Chewy Protector. He's another character that triggers, Diplo's +1, and because he's a low ability rebel, and he cancels game text of certain people. I don't know if he gets Colonel David, but he certainly gets Lieutenant Commander Arden. I think it's a power thing. It has to be power less than 4, I think, for Chewie to cancel. So right now I wouldn't get Colonel David. And this is where Bastion goes to pay maintenance, and he actually disconnects, and he's gone for like 4 minutes. Well, he reconnects, so we can skip through that, and then he finally does come back. So you don't guys want to sit here. We're already just cut 4 minutes off this time. Woo! All right, so Charlie activates a ton. They're both activating 18 and 19 force here on their second turns. This is pretty insane. The force generation between having a 2-1 docking bay that gets a +1 extra plus an Emperor. It's a 4-1 docking bay right there. And then these are other 2-1 locations, and then having a 4-1 system because of the Tanavac Chandrilla. So you can't really argue one side's getting out better than the other because they both have some pretty significant force activation bonuses. Charlie did find Alderaan. There's Captain Antilles going down. So now he's got ability and whatnot at each on each ship, ability to draw destiny. So if he splits his ships up here, he'll be able to do that. Captain Antilles is also an Alderaanian. So you do have that working for you. If you find Bale, but Bale's usually on the Tantive anyway, so it's kind of a double dipping. You wish you could put one of them on the on another ship to kind of keep your drain bonus alive, but they're better on the Tantive. That's right where they kind of belong. So you get the extra battle destiny. If you had another Corvette in there, like if you're just playing like Radis and like a generic Corvette or something, then obviously you could split them up. But even then, it's really still not worth doing. You just pile them both onto the Tantive and call it a day. And here's where Charlie's timer's going to run a little bit while he's figuring out what he wants to do. So Leia goes ground to Mos Eisley, and he gets a used pile search. And takes a little while for that. He takes Might, which he then plays, and uses that to get Bale. And puts Bale on the Tantive. So now we've got Mothma, Bale, and Antilles on the Tantive. We've got uh, R2D2 with the plans and General Calrissian on the Falcon. We've got Leia at Mos Eisley. And now we've got Captain Hera being deployed to the Dune Sea, and he's going to throw out Tatooine Celebration to try and get some retrieval going. We'll go to battle phase. We'll go to move phase. Falcon's going that way, over to Alderaan. Plans are delivered, and he's got at least like 15 cards or so in there to look through and pick one. And then you can use the once per game to make the double move and go all the way back to Tatooine to protect the celebration. And the Tandem's going to move over to Raltier as well. And he's going to pull Battle Plan. Tanif adds an icon there, so Raltier is a battleground system for light side. And Charlie is in pretty decent shape here. He's got his retrieval engine set up. He's making his opponent pay to drain. He's kind of forcing his opponent. He's going to consolidate these two guys just because of the fear of Vader Enforcer. He can cancel either one of their game texts, and then neither one of them would get a destiny draw. So he'll consolidate them together for now, and then they're still in pretty good shape. He's adding +3 to his total battle destiny as well. And with Bailout, now he's got Alderaanians in a couple spots. So he can get a 4-strain bonus. This is at least still a drain of 1, and this will be a drain of 2 at Raltier because of Bail adding 1 there. Because they're not minus from the objective at Raltier locations. It's only non-Raltier locations that get the drain -1. Kind of encouraging a little bit of interaction, giving you, they can't just run away from you all game the way like Old Allies does. Bastion deploys Binder to Tatooine, which gets barriered, trying to potentially clear off that system with just, Lando forfeits for 7, so anything over a 5, and you were getting rid of him and R2, and then you control the system and cancel the celebration. And since he's adding 3 to his destiny, and most of the characters in there and stuff, if he drew a character, he could redraw it with domination. If he drew an interrupt, it's going to be a 4 most likely, and then he's adding 3 to the total, so that would be 7. And then he could always exchange if you wanted to, which he doesn't even need to do, because just getting high enough to get past R2's forfeit means he has to forfeit Lando, and then Darkseid would control the system and cancel the celebration. But the ship does get barriered, so that means it will not be battling this turn. So it'll have to possibly add an extra pilot or 2, or Callus with domination, or I'm sorry, with code clearance out does forfeit for 9, so he's covering a pretty good chunk of battle damage there. And with Callus, he revealed and he had two choices. It was Admiral Mahdi or the flagship Executor. He took the flagship to get himself a second ship, and now he's just going to draw a bunch of cards. The downside, of course, to taking the Executor is that your opponent now knows it's in your hand, and all he has to do is move one of his two ships to Fondor, and now you can't deploy it. Charlie uses his last force to play Escape Pod, We're Doomed. And he's going to take the Hujix out of his deck. Unfortunately, that was a mistimed attempt there by Charlie, because now Bastion's going to go ahead and cancel the Tatooine Celebration with the Masterful Move combo. If Charlie still had that force, he could use his fourth shield pull, get weapons display, because he occupies the site in the system, or he controls the site in the system, and his opponent didn't initiate battle after deploying something. So he'd get to retrieve the celebration. But he spent the last force on the Hujix, and now does not get to get his celebration back. Charlie gets to drain for 3 total. He top decks an Admiral Piet and a Vader Enforcer. And ordinarily, you'd be upset about losing 2 key characters like that, or at least 1 key character in Vader. And then he throws away a Crush from hand. But with the Rob's objective, having him in the lost pile is actually better than having him in somewhere in your reserve deck, because now you know right where he is, and now as soon as you can have a battle anywhere, you can go get him. You can exchange for him. So, it's like when Watch Your Step just starts top decking interrupts and throwing stuff away. It's like they want those interrupts in their lost pile, because then they can have easy access to play them for the rest of the game. We'll see how design and development cleans that text up with the upcoming adjustments that are scheduled for the end of the year. All right, so Charlie drained. He's going to go look, verify his deck, see what's in there. Bastion did save a couple of force as well. And Charlie's going to think about this one for a little while. All right, so he sends General Kraken in front of Colonel David here. And he's going to put Solo over here on the Falcon as a second pilot. So now he's got a little bit more power and forfeit over there. And he drops Cassian to this other site. Now he has 5 battlegrounds by doing that to his opponent's 4. So that way if he wins the battle, Charlie's expecting to lose the battle here. And if he does, Domination will not kick in and let him retrieve any of those 2 Imperials that he lost earlier. So he gets to the 5th battleground by doing it that way. They both draw Destiny. Lightside draws a 1, which Mothma will take into hand. So there's that Chewie Protector that we were speculating about earlier. And he also gets an extra battleground for the objective with this, making it a 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because he's got all 5 battlegrounds have a Rebel of ability less than 4 present. Darkside draws Min Kun and will exchange, throwing the Grand Inquisitor away to get Vader back. And just like that, Vader's back in hand. Darkseid does win the battle, but domination is not in effect, as we said, so both guys die. And now it's decision time for Charlie. If you move Cassian over to flip Rop's back, then you have to shuttle somebody down. Which weakens your Tanev and opens up, you're probably shuttling down Mothma at that point, but then that means you're probably running the risk of losing her ability to get Destiny draws and stuff into hand, just to flip them back. But that is what Charlie will do here. He's gonna obviously got to keep Antilles aboard and Bale up there where they're quasi-safe. So Mothma becomes the sacrificial lamb. Thoughts on Chopper. Target's ability versus power, and the prefix office can boost power, especially with expand and mess with Chewie's ability to cancel. I don't know what Chopper does. Let's look him up. Let's see. Is this my box of foils? Yeah, but they're not in here. All right. All right. Well, now that he does occupy a site in a system, Bastion does get to drain here. He drains for 1 and 1. Charlie loses a Rebel Barrier and Luke Last Jedi off the top. Those are cards he can certainly live without. All right. He's going to drop the house over here. Chopper, while aboard a starship, its power and defense value +2, immune to lateral damage. May fly, land speed =2. Permanent weapon is Electroshock Prod. Target a character of ability less than 4. Target may not use its game text for remainder of turn. Well, that particular ability is a little bit better than just Chewie's cancel, but Chewie's got a number of other things working for him. He's a rebel, so he triggers, the objective, adding 1 to total battle destiny. He also gets the use pile pull. So I don't know that you'd have room for, if you're going to play a different version of Chewie, like Chewie with Bowcaster, and then still find a way to fit Chopper in. If you're going to play one or the other, Chewie just seems like he has a little bit more synergy. And what's the best case scenario you get with Chopper? He cancels somebody's game text, and maybe you catch them without the Gick, but presumably the Gick is either in their hand or in their lost pile, and then they just go exchange for it and then play it. Chopper is interesting, but I think he probably doesn't make the cut. Well, I wasn't entirely paying 100% attention while I was working today, so while the game was on, because I was working today. All right, so Bastion drops Tarkin, a Death Trooper, Kirk Canos, and Krennic. So now he's getting 3 Battle Destiny there. And he's got quite a bit more power. Charlie's going to play Antilles Maneuver, and he's going to pull Vanden Willard, who's another Alderaanian, and plop that guy on the Falcon. And then he's going to use Vanden Willard and cycle a card back and draw a card here. We know Charlie has the Hoojix in his hand because he pulled it earlier with the escape pod, so it's not like he's going to take, overflow damage or anything in this battle. He doesn't have Insurrection out either, so Cassian's not getting a forfeit bonus, but his guys do forfeit for 10. A third domination. That's how broken that card is, that it's 2 dot, and Bastion's playing 3 of them. Wow. And an Emperor. And I think this next Destiny is pretty brutal, too. I was wondering if Charlie was going to use Cassian here to cancel that Destiny, just to try and see if there was a way where maybe he wouldn't have to use the Hoojix here. He exchanges Min Kun from hand to get Piet out of the lost pile. And then he draws Captain Palayan for his last Destiny for a total of 13, putting him up to 32. So Charlie's down by 26 here. He would have been down by 20 if he had canceled the Emperor's. Ouch, he draws a 0. He would have been down by 20 if he had canceled the Emperor. He draws that. It becomes a 4, so he's down by 16. His guys cover 10. Yeah, he's still going to end up losing the Hoojix anyway, so it didn't really make much sense then, I guess, to use Cassian. I mean, it's like use him or lose him, but maybe there's a way where you get him back later with a Jedi Lev or something, or probably not playing that with code clearance out, but I don't know. Maybe there's a way you get him back later and you can reuse him. By the way, who is B. Kibler? So I see him on my channel. Brian Kibler is a longtime Magic Hall of Famer who streams Hearthstone and is one of the best Hearthstone players and streamers. So when I was really big streaming Hearthstone at the beginning of the year, because I was playing a lot and streaming a lot and watching a lot of streams, I learned a lot watching him play because he plays for hours a day. So I think I have my channel set up to follow him. So when I'm not live streaming on my own channel, and he is, it kind of just defaults to cover his stream as well. Never met the guy, but he also does a lot of their casting for their major events. He's on site in their panel, and anybody who's looking to learn how to get better at doing commentary, he's also a good one to watch for that as well. Very knowledgeable about all the cards and the games and the interactions, and doesn't overly explain stuff and get caught up in too much of the minutia. Certainly one of the people who I've used to improve my casting abilities over the years. Good question, Silver Glenn. All right, and then after that, Bastion runs away. He loses the Death Trooper. Charlie loses everything and plays the Hoojix. Binder runs away to Chandrilla. And Charlie will get to activate and do a little bit of draining here. So he basically gets to drain for 1 everywhere, because he has all the Radians at each location and bails out. So it's 1, 1, and 1. Bastion loses the Grand Inquisitor. Blizzard Scout 1. And what's the last card? Piet from hand. All right. Charlie puts down the Cantina. He drops Chirrut to Moss Eisley. Then he spends a little bit more force, only 2 force, and drops Chewy. It's the other advantage that Chewy has too. He deploys for 2 to where Leia is, at least this Chewy. I guess Chopper deploys for 2 as well, but Chewy's 6 power. Chopper's only powered 2. So it gets a use pile pull from Chewy here. And he's going to drop Gold Leader in Gold 1 to Chandrilla. And he's got a few force left to slap a pilot on that. And if it happens to be, it's Tycho, okay, also an Alderaanian. But he's also a rebel of ability less than 4. So now he's adding 1, 2, 3, 4 to the total. And he drops Commander Nara down to Moss Eisley as well. So now he's adding 5 to his total. Nara also draws him the top card of his reserve deck. Anytime you deploy a Rogue Squadron pilot, well, once per turn when you deploy a Rogue Squadron pilot, you get to do that. So now he's adding 5 to his total. Callus forfeits for 9, so as long as he draws a 4, he'll be good here, and he can clear. Well, if he draws a 5, he clears both things. And that should be the Antilles maneuver he played last turn. He should be able to track that around. Oh, he draws a We're Doomed. Okay, I guess that's the card he put back with Banded Willard last turn. So he gets to 10. He unnecessarily uses Solo's text. I don't know if he was thinking he wasn't high enough. I think Charlie said later he did make a mistake and did miscalculate that what Callus's forfeit and stuff was. So he was thinking he wasn't high enough and he needed the extra plus. So he uses solos once per game and just adds 1 that he didn't need to. And Bastion draws a 4, which becomes a 7, so everybody's going to die again. But Light Side will win the battle. They will get to retrieve a card, so they'll get their Hujiks back. Dark Side's going to do an exchange here, and they're going to swap. He's going to swap Lieutenant Commander Arden from hand to get Colonel David back. And then everybody's going to die. Alright, and then looks like Charlie just ended up, I think he just drew a card and called it a turn. Yep. It was a productive turn. He got Bastion out of space, which means he'd have to pay for these drains of 1 on the ground. Probably not something he's likely to do, but it did cost him most of his hand. So Charlie's down to just 2 cards in hand right now, to Bastion's 9. Also, I didn't forget, there's 2 other replay games from round 1 that we also still need to go through. I know we've got, I think, Silver Glen's first game with Adam I don't think we went back to that one yet. Maybe I did do that one already. Oh no, I didn't. We did game 2, but we didn't. We talked about what happened in game 1, but we didn't actually show the link to the replay for that one. Um, so we have that one to cover, and then Joe's first game with Baroni as well. All right, Sebastian's going to drop Vader. Vader can cancel Nara's text in this scenario, but and then he's going to put Colonel David to the Cantina. So now he has 5 battlegrounds. Not that he really necessarily needed to, um, but I'm sure he's going to do the same thing Charlie did over here on Raltier. He battles, everybody dies, and then Colonel David just moves out. And then he still has 4 battlegrounds to his opponent's 3, so maybe domination will work the following turn when Charlie comes to try and battle him back. And here we get the battle. Vader cancels Nara's text, which really just adds 1 to the attrition total. Darkside draws a 4, which will become a 7, which will be enough to clear out both guys. He also exchanges the flagship executor from hand to get his binder back. Since it's unlikely he's going to be able to deploy that ship anytime soon, good idea swapping it out for one that he actually can. Lightside draws a 5, which will become a 9. So Lightside wins that battle, and we'll get to retrieve, and they're going to pay and retrieve their gold leader and gold 1. So both guys got ships back. And then everybody dies. It's kind of a common theme here. Everybody dies. Colonel David moves over. Bastion draws a bunch of cards. Charlie puts a card back with Nara. And then he pays the upkeep. So life force totals, Charlie's slightly ahead in what's face down, but Bastion's got a 11 card hand size to Charlie's 2, so they're still basically about even. They're both around 25 or so total life force. Bastion throws the spaceport street away from hand. And then throws away, excuse me, the domination, which he can't. He's already got 2 on table, so can't play a third one. And he also lost a Lana Dobreed combo as well. Charlie will verify his deck, see what he's got to work with. I'm sure he's got somebody who can go kill Colonel David over there. Just has to be careful about what he's going to lose in return. He would need to get to 2 battlegrounds this turn if he wants to turn off domination. Bastion did save force to retrieve Imperials. Alright, so we got a young Skywalker, and he'll get a use pile pull, so he's got 6 cards to choose from there. And he'll take his time and think about what he wants to pull there. And now they're tied up at 4 battlegrounds each. Just over the halfway point on their timers. Charlie's got 24 minutes left. Bastion still has 31. And Bastion also lost about 4 minutes when he disconnected on turn 2. Thankfully, he made it back in time. Otherwise, that would have been awkward. Charlie drops Ray for 4. Gets the second used pile pull from her. And he drops Saw Gerrera on board the Tanev. The useful text, part of Saw's text, says that opponent cannot modify your force drains here. So between the Ral-Ops objective making the drain -1 and the Fondor system making the drain -1, neither of those modifiers would be in effect. So that would become a drain of 3 at that system. Bastion does still have shield pulls available, so he could pull resistance. He's got the 3 battlegrounds necessary to reduce that and cap that drain at 2, but it still makes him do something. All right, so we're here at 4-4, but Lightside has a power advantage, so it's unlikely that Darkside would get to retrieve with domination here, unless Lightside drew a 1 and Darkside drew a 7. Well, Lightside does draw a 1. This is where losing my Mothma early hurt, because having been able to take Obi into hand right there would also be pretty important for Charlie right now. I mean, obviously he can track him around a little bit with Van and Willard, but having just that free get into hand. After listening to Justin Desai on Wednesday night's SWCCG Hollow Theater episode, talking about ROPS and things like that, I'm really coming around more to the school of thought that once they flip, and unless you're playing a deck that has to go at them, like if you're playing Diplo, just leave them alone. Just let them stay flipped. Just leave them over there on their 3 sites, and just keep your stuff going elsewhere. All right, so Charlie wins the battle. He pays to retrieve Nara. Bastion plays the imbalance combo to make him lose a force. And he loses a perimeter scan off the top of his reserve deck. And then forfeits Ray. And then the Falcon moves back to Raltier. Since the objectives doesn't subtract from drains at Raltier, that's a good move there at Raltier locations. So this will be a drain of 2 now, and then this is presumably going to get capped at a drain of 2. And then Luke will bounce into the Cantina to get a drain of 1 off, so that would be 5. And that's, consistently being able to do damage, even these little pings of just draining for 1, draining for 2, not having to pay for it, and being able to just sort of just keep the wheels moving against ROPS, certainly a key component of how to beat the deck. If you're just trading characters in battles and things like that, they usually win that war because they just recycle the better characters back out of their loss pile, and then domination gets them a couple guys as well. Kind of like Scum in that aspect. You just keep retrieving the guys you lost last fight. So being able to tack on some additional damage on top of that each turn, I think is the necessary component to beating Ral-Ops. That's why Diplo has had such a pretty strong track record against it. Because it can spread out wide, it can turn off domination for a turn or 2, and it still can get some drains in behind all of it. Its guys are, cost a bit cheaper, so you can get more of them out each turn instead of paying, 6 for Luke, 7 for Qui-Gon, 5 for Anakin, 5 for Obi, etc. You have these handful of guys who deploy for 2 and 3 that can do some good things. All right, Bastion's going to activate it all this turn. He is not going to pay to drain. He's going to think about how he wants to do all this. And then he drops the binder to Raltier. That'll let him shuttle up a guy as a pilot, whether he gets Tarkin or Krennic. Possibly both. Depending on what else he has to work with here. He's only got 6 cards in hand, so... Alright, so he drops Mara with ship, and he drops non-virtual decree, because that card is non-unique. So the non-virtual one says that whenever you control a site and 2 systems, you cancel Revolution and your opponent's Force Drain bonuses everywhere. So we expect him to he'll move Binder over to Chandrilla, then he'll control a site and 2 systems, so that will cancel the Force Drain bonus from Bail everywhere. So this will be a drain of 0. This will be a drain of only 1. This would be just a drain of 2. So it certainly saves him a couple of force for this turn coming up. He shuttles up Tarkin, and then he shuttles up Ozzel. That also works. So now Tarkin's with the leader, so he can add a Battle Destiny. So now they still get 2 there. And then he'll move the binder away. And Charlie does pull weapons display here since he deployed and didn't battle. Charlie can retrieve a card. And even if it's, in this case, it's a good card, it's Rey. But even in this, sometimes in this situation, in these types of games, just getting 1 card back, just getting 1 extra force to do something with a little later on, sometimes that can be the difference too. Bastion draws a couple. Actually, he doesn't have any cards to draw. He only has 1 force left, and he's got to use it on upkeep. He saves 2. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 4. So Charlie gets to activate. He does get the drain of 2 in at Fondor. Captain Palayan and Captain Goddard get lost. It's drain of 1 at Raltier. And there goes the Masterful Move combo. Luke moves to the Cantina. And he gets the drain 1 there as well. So he only loses 4 total. Whereas he would have lost 1 extra here and 1 extra here. So he saved himself 2 force by playing the Decree, which cost him a card out of his hand. So he netted at least 1 force that turn, and then anything else the rest of the game that it gets him is certainly a bonus. All right, we got the Bright Hope with Wedge Antilles. No cards left in hand for Charlie, so no other Rogue Squadron pilots. That would be pretty huge to be able to cancel a Destiny here. Especially since Darkseid can only draw 1 because of Tatooine's text. But Wedge also being a rebel of ability less than 4 means he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 location. 1, 2, 3, 4 locations now. So that's plus 4. So that's a 9. This is DS 615, so he's forfeit for 7. So that's going to be enough to clear both things. Bastion draws a 4, which is only a 6 now because he moved off the middle location. So now he's going to swap to get the prepared defenses from his lost pile. He throws away the Gick, which isn't bad because presumably if you get any interrupt in hand, you can just exchange for it later if you need it. It also means that Darkside wins the battle in this situation, so they do get to use domination and that 2 force he saved. Otherwise, they would have been tied. So that's a smart move there by Bastion, no surprise. And he gets to retrieve the Stormtrooper garrison. And he gets somebody else back too. Who's he going to get? The Captain Goddard. So basically just takes back the guys who have the highest destiny numbers that were in his lost pile. And then once again, everybody dies. Falcon moves over in front of Binder. And Charlie's going to draw a few cards finally and kind of get some stuff back in his hand. He's back up to 8 cards in hand now, and he's only got about 12 cards left down. Bastion, I think, is sitting on about 18, 19, but only 1 in hand. So they kind of flip-flop positions from where they were a turn or two ago. Bastion's going to activate. He's going to use an Emperor, look for a Force Lightning, and then he's going to activate a few more. Guess he didn't like what he saw. Alright, so he's got drains of 1, 1, and 1. Nice. Charlie's got We're Doomed, the regular version, in addition to the combo that he used earlier. So Bastion drains for 1. Might of the Republic, he loses from hand, and now because he has less than 15 life force, he plays We're Doomed. So that cuts his force loss for the rest of the turn in half, and because R2 is on the table, it rounds down. So these drains of 1 get cut in half to a half, and then rounded down to 0. So 0 and 0 at these 2 sites. Is the Bale the most important card for Diplo in this match? He's certainly one of them. Him being able to give you that drain bonus to let you put consistent damage through each turn is certainly a key part of Diplo being able to win. All right. So Tarkin's going to add a Destiny here. He also dropped Vader as an additional pilot, so he's got more power and forfeit. He's got 4 battlegrounds. It's 4-4 here. So he draws Marek Steel. He's going to redraw it by taking it into hand with Domination. And then there's the Stormtrooper Garrison that he retrieved last turn. And below that should be the card he drew for Battle Destiny. No, it should be the card he paid to retrieve. I think. Yeah, this should be the one he paid to retrieve that he's going to draw. Oh, the prepared defenses that he used to add to his Destiny draw first. Okay. So he's got 7, 8, 9 for a total against the Falcon. And they draw a 5, which 6, 7, 8. That'll get rid of Vader or Tarkin there. But it also lets Darkside retrieve 2 more guys for winning the battle. He retrieves the Death Trooper, and then he retrieves Lieutenant Commander Arden, and then he forfeits Tarkin for 9. And Charlie's got 9 attrition on him. Lando and Solo both forfeit for 7. R2 goes for 4, but if he loses R2, then his We're Doomed is less effective. And Vanden Willard is also aboard there as a passenger, so he could lose Vanden Willard if he needed to. He could lose Solo and Vanden Willard. Then he loses his drain +1 from Bale plus his ability to cycle cards back to get the We're Doomed into hand each turn. So I think what Charlie ends up doing here is losing both pilots. Yeah, he forfeits Solo and he forfeits Lando. And then Bastion will just... He moves Krennic over and leaves Kirkanos alone. Gets his third Raltier site back, so he's adding +3 to everything now. And then he just draws a couple cards and pays his upkeep. Alright. We're making some pretty decent progress through this. Thank you guys for hanging out and watching. And for the few of you who might have missed this match earlier, and certainly for those of you who watched it, we always appreciate you popping into chat and sharing your comments. Show off my Euro Worlds 2019 Euro Worlds 2 mug. So he pulls Resistance. Now he only has to, because Decree is not in effect, so he pulls Resistance to cap the drain at Fondor from 3 to 2. He top decks an Imperial Command and a Lieutenant Commander Arden. Luke drains for 1 in the Cantina. He top decks Thrawn. And that'll be a drain of 1 at the Dune Sea as well. Now that he has his Force Drain bonuses back. And there goes the Death Trooper that was retrieved. So Bastion's got about 11 cards down and 4 in hand. Charlie's got about 14 cards down and 6 in hand. So it's about 20 to 15 in terms of life totals right now. All right, Charlie's going to drop Ahsoka in front of Kirkanos. Now, Kir doesn't draw by himself, but he can use Decree to get a Battle Destiny, which he would then add 3 to. Ahsoka would subtract 1 from it, so it would be +2. And then Charlie drops Nara aboard the Falcon. And he puts Owen and Baru down as well, giving himself more power and I guess a little bit more forfeit. Ahsoka only forfeits for 7. She's a little bit weaker in terms of forfeit compared to some of the other Jedi characters. But that does block a drain there, and it does sort of keep his opponent honest. It is going to cost +1 force to move away from the binder, and Charlie only has 2 left, so that's part of the reason I'm sure we don't see him battle here. The other part of the reason being, his opponent's likely to draw at least a 4, 5, 6, 7, -1, 6. It's more than enough to get rid of Ahsoka here. And I think at this point he kind of just wants to have more battlegrounds than his opponent to keep the domination retrieval off. So Charlie thinks about it, and he runs the Falcon over to Raltier. Uses Vanden Willard, and that's the end of his turn. Bastion thinks about how much he wants to activate. Takes most of it. Looks for a Force Lightning and checks out his Destiny draws. And then he'll get drains. He's got drains of 1, 1, and this would be a drain of 2 because he has a Star Destroyer there. So he drains for 2 at Chandrilla. Charlie loses a Sense and the Gold Eater in Gold 1, and then plays the We're Doomed. The Rebel Barrier is what Bastion grabbed earlier, so the We're Doomed does get looped around a couple times, and that will save him from these drains over here of 1 and 1. Bastion drops the Conquest to Raltier with Marek Steel, the Emperor's Reach, and then Binder moves over in front of the Tantive at Fondor. He now has 5 locations again. Decree is still not in effect because you have to control the sites in the system, but he does also get a 4th Raltier location, so now his total battle destiny is +4 by doing that. Charlie does get the drain for 1 in the Cantina. Bastion top deck's a close call. And drains for 1 at the Dune Sea as well, and that gets rid of General Fears. And now Charlie goes into the tank for a little while trying to figure out what to do. And he drops Obi-Wan in front of the Emperor. He's down only about 10 minutes on his timer here, so this is where things start to get a little tense. Bastion's got 16 minutes on his timer. Charlie's only at 10. Now, he only has 1 card in hand, so he can't exchange. If he had another card in hand, he might have considered exchanging for Celebration, slapping that on the system, and then just like running the Falcon back to Tatooine to protect the Celebration. And then he can start retrieving 2 and 3. Move one of these guys over here, and then he can start retrieving 2 or 3 cards a turn. At least until Bastion battles and then swaps to get the Masterful move out of his loss pile. But he'd have to have an interrupt in hand to do it. So who knows if, that 1 card in his hand is an interrupt. Probably is. Alright, so Charlie moves the Falcon to Chandrilla. Moves Leia over to Mos Eisley. Draws 2 cards and calls it a turn. So they're both sitting at about 11 cards face down at this point. Charlie with 2 more cards in hand. I'm sorry, Bastion has 12 cards face down, it looks like. So Bastion will get a drain of 1 here at this middle site. And Charlie top decks Might off his from his force pile. I guess he was assuming that Bastion would not be battling this turn. And he would not need that force to retrieve anything. Yep. We just go to move phase. Binder runs away. Vader shuttles down to the Lars farm, which is -1 unless Vader's there. So this is a drain of 2. Sebastian trying to get some extra damage in here. And then he goes and he moves Blizzard 4 over, leaving Krennic by himself, and draws a couple cards. Charlie's got about 6 minutes on his timer, 6.5, and he's going to try and speed things up a little here. He gets a drain of 2 off at Fondor. Oh, the other advantage now, Decree is back in effect because it doesn't say Battleground Systems, it's just a site and 2 systems. So he's got 2 systems and the site. Well, he also has the site here. So that's going to negate all the force drain bonuses again. So this is a drain of 0. This is only a drain of 1 in the cantina. These are 0 because there's no bonuses, and they're -1 from Raltier. So he lost Min, he lost an Emperor, and he lost Trample to the drains of 2 and 1. Charlie's last 2 cards in hand were Gold Leader and Corin Horn. Which he will use to go take out the binder. So he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that he's adding to his total. I forget exactly who's on the binder at this point, but Charlie draws a 5 for Battle Destiny, which becomes a 10, which is going to be more than enough to clear out whoever's left there. Also forces Bastion to spend 1 of his force to draw Destiny, so if he should happen to win the battle, that might be a card less that he could retrieve. I think he saved 3, though. Yeah, it looks like he has 3 there. So he did still have enough force available should he have won that battle to pay to retrieve. But he doesn't. He loses the battle because his total is +8, which gets him to 15. I guess he could exchange here for prepared defenses. One of the cards in hand was prepared defenses. Okay. I was like, so he could add 1 so he could then tie, so then nobody gets to retrieve. But instead, he throws away prepared defenses to get back the trample, which we assume is going to be high enough here to get rid of Owen and Baru. And that's going to leave Ahsoka just kind of hanging out to dry by herself. And Charlie does not have any cards in hand here, but 8 is enough to kill everybody here, so everybody's going to die. Charlie does decide to retrieve in this case. He gets back the might, and then everybody dies. And Owen and Baru get trampled. He drew the imbalance combo, which was a 4 and trampled. Bastion's going to shuffle his deck and then activate a few cards. Try and move those 4s around. See what he can draw to kind of beat up on Ahsoka here, because he's got she forfeits for 7, so it's basically it's 14 to 12. So he's already ahead by 2. They are 1, 2, 3. They're both adding 4 to their totals, so that's kind of a wash. So basically, it'll be the difference in their destiny draws, and Darkseid's ahead by 2 right now. So they're going to cause potentially could cause a couple of overflow to Ahsoka, and if you have at least 1 more character to put down and add a little bit more power, it could take away a few more cards. Oh, we jumped too far. So as it turns out, Bastion has 2 things left in his hand that he can deploy. He's got Captain Goddard. He adds a couple more power and forfeit. That'll just cause a couple extra cards of overflow. And there's Tempest Scout 6. which adds a few more power here. So now we're looking at 20 to 5, 20 to 12. Ahsoka does subtract 1, so from the total. Darkside does draw 4, which becomes a 3, which then becomes a 7 for total, so it's 27. Lightside's down by 22 currently. They draw the 5 that they retrieved last turn, which becomes a 9. So now they're down by 13, so it's Ahsoka and 6. Charlie had 11 cards left at the start of that battle, and nothing in hand. Neither player has anything left in hand now. So he's going to have to peel 6 cards here, and as soon as Bastion's done forfeiting. And that's going to take him all the way down to 5 cards, and both players are under 10 minutes on their timer. Charlie's down to about 4 minutes now, and Bastion has about 7, I think, on his. So we're getting close to the end here. Only a little bit more to go. And Charlie's going to peel 6 cards. Escape pod combo, Antilles maneuver, evac control, projection of a Skywalker, Antilles maneuver, and a perimeter scan. Now he's down to just 5 cards. Bastion looks to be at about, I think, 8. And he does move the Conquest over to Fondor to block that drain. Yeah, Bastion's got 8 left. I'm pretty sure that's Marek Steel on there, the Emperor's Reach. So he blocks the big drain. He gets drained for, it's going to be 1, 1, and 1. Monty goes off the top to Chandrilla. Lana Dobreed Sacrifice goes off the top in the Cantina. And the Stormtrooper Garrison is lost from the drain at Mos Eisley. So both players have 5 cards left now. Charlie's got 340 left on his timer. Bastion at 614. There are no fast games between Diplo and Rops, that's for sure. Unless somebody gets caught without a Hoojix or a Gick, but for the most part, yeah. So there's the battle at Fondor. Lightside's getting 2 Battle Destiny here because they've got Bail and they have enough ability. Speak of the devil, there is the Hoojix. So he'll draw that, and then he'll get a second Destiny, and this should be the Might he drew last battle. So he's got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 for a total. Marek Steel only forfeits for 8, so that's going to be enough to clear him and the ship. Darkside draws a 4, which will become a 7. So you've got Bail, Antilles, and who else is on there? I forget. And we'll see when he forfeits him in a second. Captain Ramus has to go. He covers 4. Marek Steel goes. And Charlie can keep either Bail or... Oh, Saw is the other person who's on there. Bail or Saw. So he loses Bail to keep Saw. So he can keep the drain intact of 2 here. But if he had kept Bail, it would have been a drain of 1 here, plus drains of 1 and 1. So that would actually be 3 total, as opposed to 2. So keeping Bail would have been the right play there. I know Charlie discussed that after the game. And, yep, he's going to move. He retrieves 1 for winning the battle, and then moves... Hera and Chewie over in front of Vader. So Charlie's at 6. Bastion activates his last 5 force, pays 3 to drain for 1. Star Destroyer. What? Where was that card all game? He's played like 4 Star Destroyers. Star Destroyer. I think you have to point too. You can't. You gotta. I've heard a couple people yell it at tournaments. Um, Not in a while, but I have heard it done. So it says it on the card. You got to do it, right? And then he's going to suicide himself here with Vader. He'll cancel Hera's game text, limiting him to just 1 destiny. Charlie has no force remaining to retrieve. Darkseid has no cards left to draw for destiny. Lightside doesn't really matter what they do. If they draw destiny, he peels them. You don't draw destiny, well, then he has to lose 4 battle damage. So he can just lose the 3 cards in his used pile and 1 card from his force pile, and then draw the last card and end the game. Instead, Bastion chooses to lose Vader there, and then draw the remaining 2 to end the game here. So Charlie wins by 5, but in doing so, Bastion put 1 extra card in his lost pile. I don't know if it'll come down to lost piles if they happen to tie in game 2. Assuming Bastion feels like he can win by more than 5 in game 2. But he does put 1 extra card in his lost pile that he didn't need to. So even the best players in the world still do things not as optimally as they could. There's your life lesson to take away from it. Thank you guys very much for tuning in and watching this game. We will do the other 2 replay link reviews this weekend to get everybody all caught up. I know we've got a couple matches coming up on Monday. It seems like everybody wants to play on Monday. I don't know what makes Monday so good other than there's usually not a very exciting football game on. But that's going to do it for this replay. Thank you guys again for watching. And if we have any other games coming up, be sure and check the forums to find out the dates and times of those. So take care.